Good morning. It is beautiful morning actually. And yes, I am doing the roselle again. I'm just it's probably at least a week before it starts to get cold. Um, and there's a mosquito. I hope he doesn't land on me. Maybe I'll need to go inside. Anyway, it feels really good out here. And I already finished my garden check for the day. I've got the um, peppers and tomatoes right here. Um, that's a group that I planted for someone else. And the peppers are doing great, and the tomatoes are not ripening. So we've probably got about a week or so before the real cold starts to hit. It's supposed to start to get down into the 50s and 40s. Not real cold, but that'll be January and February. But all right, where did I drop it? Oh, there it is. Um, it'll start to get cold enough outside that it's uncomfortable to sit outside in the morning. So I was, and yes, I'm aware. Someone said, "Oh, there's an easier way to do this," but it didn't work for me. So anyway, um, so the last couple of weeks, maybe, I've been trying to deal with the neighbors' dogs. My chickens are free range, and some of them are small enough to get through the fences into the garden area. And past the garden area is the neighbor's yard, and there's not a fence in between. Not that it would make a difference because these puppies are small enough that they're sliding through the kennel without even a hesitation. So, so the dogs have been coming over for probably the last couple of weeks, just watching the chickens. Fascinating, right? Until they got big enough and bold enough to start killing them. Yay! So I've been dealing with that for a while. And part of the problem, I don't know, I guess most people really don't think much about the training of animals. But with dogs specifically, they need a pack. And when you take a dog in, you become its pack. Now with chickens, they want a flock, and there's a specific structure to the flock. They don't take in a new member easily, especially if it's a large flock. They tend to reject, but part of that is the pecking order. There are reasons behind it, animal reasons. But when you take in a dog, that dog, you become his pack. And he sees you as part of his pack. If you're the alpha, if you're the controller, he sees you as the alpha, and he will obey you, and he will do whatever is necessary. His position in the flock or in the pack is subservient to your own. And now, say you have 3 family members, okay? You have a husband, a wife, and a child. Only one can be the alpha. And so you'll have dogs that will obey one person in the family but won't obey the other, because in the order of the pack, those other humans are beneath the dog, or the dog perceives them as being lower in the pack order than he is. And so he won't obey them, and he might steal their food. He might nip at them and try to herd them. He might do lots and lots of things. And this is part of the reason for training an animal, is to change the pack dynamic. And I was talking to my neighbor about this dog problem, and he said that his dog, they have 5, and the puppies aren't his. They belong to someone else who didn't have room for them. And he said he couldn't understand. He was like, what, I don't understand what's going on, because my dog never tries to get out of the kennel, never tries to go out of the yard. He obeys me without question. Well, yeah, you're part of his pack. You are his alpha. You are the leader of the pack, and so he will obey you. So I've been trying to deal with this situation, and part of it is simply a misunderstanding, or not misunderstanding human-wise, but a misunderstanding animal-wise of the personality and the pack structure. These other puppies, there are 4 puppies. One of them is his, and she obeys without a problem. But the other 4 they belong to someone else. And all that's being done is to feed and water them. They are being fed. They've got plenty of food. They've got plenty of water, but they're not being socialized. No one is coming to play with them. No one is coming to talk to them, or do any of the puppy things to teach them, to train them. And that has me nervous. It has me concerned, and it's one of the reasons that I'm sitting out here, because the chickens are free ranging. I'm not going to discontinue the free ranging because of a couple of wild dogs, but when the dogs get out, they need immediate and harsh reinforcement of their territory. So I'm sitting here on the back porch facing the neighbor's yard, and if the puppies get out of their kennel, I will reinforce that necessary training. Now, they do not recognize me as part of their pack. They do not recognize any human as part of their pack at this point, because they haven't been socialized with humans and they haven't been trained with humans. So what we're essentially looking at is that the older these animals get, the less likely they are to bond with humans. And the older these animals get, the more likely they are to, for example, attack chickens. The older these animals get, the harder it's going to be to train them into the appropriate behavior. They will essentially be a feral pack that has no link and no I can't think of the word right now. It's just, it always escapes me. You know that. Oh, darn. I need to go get a bag to put these things in. They will essentially be a feral pack that has only other dogs as their role models. So the last thing we need is a feral pack of dogs roaming the neighborhood and making trouble. Neighbor down the street has goats. I wanted to get sheep, but that's going to have to wait now. Not because of the dogs, but because of other things. But the neighbor down the street has goats, and when these dogs are old enough, they will be old enough, big enough, and strong enough to take down a goat. As a pack, they will probably be strong enough to take down a small cow, or a calf, or those type of things. They'll be pretty big dogs. We're probably looking at 150 pounds, 130 to 150 pounds each. So they are, I'm heavy. I would be heavier than they are, but without the strength, and without the youth, and without the agility. So I am concerned about it. But in any case, it was a thought that we're running into a similar situation in our society. When you do not train a child, they grow up feral. And whether you're talking about children who ransack stores and steal, or terrorists, these are feral people, and they may have been socialized into this behavior. It's very possible. It happens. And they may, I do need to get a bag. But they may have been socialized into this behavior. It does happen. But when society fails to rein in the feral and train the feral, society collapses. And we've seen this over and over and over again when groups are not restrained, various groups in society are not restrained, and they are allowed to run wild while everyone else is expected to obey the law. They raise their children feral as well, and raise their grandchildren feral, and the parents just go away and bring back the kids, and the grandparents raise them. The grandparents who grandparents or great grandparents, the previous trainers who raised a feral generation, and then they do it again and they do it again, and you end up with a feral population. Civilization really can't survive on that basis. Civilization relies on people, on everyone being given the same responsibilities and the same consequences in regards to the society, not necessarily in regards to their personal lives, but in regards to their society. Everyone has the same punishments, everyone has the same, and a lot of societies, they don't function that way simply because it's trying to get that mosquito and he keeps landing on me. Where was I? In some societies, you have a very tiered society where people's behavior is based on where they are born or how they are born in society. And that's a completely different issue. But in our modern society, specifically in the United States, but also in many other Western countries, people are expected to conform to the mores of the society, basic society. And when you have feral children, whether they've been raised feral or they turned feral on their own, they haven't been trained or haven't been properly trained to become functioning members of society. And society starts to break down. Feral people, like feral dogs, will destroy for the fun of it. They will chase and use their base instincts, because we are in part animals. They will use their base instincts, and you end up with rape, you end up with torture, you end up with all kinds of, you end up with people being lit on fire in the New York subway, Or you end up with a situation in Gaza where feral parents raised feral children generation after generation after generation, and now the societies around them, and I'm not talking about Israel, I'm talking about the other Islamic societies, they won't have anything to do with them because they know that they're feral and that they will not work in any civilized society. Now, civilized society has various ways of handling the problem, and because feral children have always been an issue, all as far back as human history has been recorded, you had situations where feral children grew up to be feral adults and caused major issues. And those issues in our society, we do not accept setting someone on fire or slashing their throat as acceptable behavior. That is a social norm. When you have feral children, they start to believe that they can deviate from those base social norms, and then they get a hit, right? They get a power hit, and they start thinking, I can do more, I can do these other things that again go against base social norms. And if you don't rein in the feral, then they start to take control of society. And that's the situation where we're in right now. And it definitely can be fixed. It needs to be fixed, absolutely. But you do not rein in the feral by letting the feral run loose. There are lots of different ways of taking care of the feral, but you have to do something. You have to get them out of the society. Another issue is when a different society has different social norms, and you cannot allow a different society to come in and start dictating social norms. It just does not work, because the social norms of the society are so deeply ingrained that it simply causes additional conflict. So when you have a feral dog, you kill it, right? Because they cannot be trusted in society. If we have a society, if we have a human who is murdering and raping and basically being a feral animal, um, we have other ways of getting them out of the society. We have prisons, we have capital punishment if necessary. We have ways of getting them out of the society, ways that are acceptable to the society as a whole. But when those things break down, when the feral become dominant in society, when the feral start taking control, you end up with an entirely different problem, because the feral always want to associate with more feral. And that's one of the problems that we're running into, is that the feral, again, whether they raise their children to be feral or they simply accept feral behavior from others, the society starts to break down. And we are in a situation where the feral have been given free rein to do whatever they want. And the citizens, the people who conform to the social norms, are penalized for trying to defend themselves and trying to control the feral. Um, we don't, our society, we have to get past that. We have to stop allowing the feral a different set of rules than the dominant society. These citizens cannot take second place to the feral, because otherwise the feral are just emboldened, and it gets worse and worse and worse until they bring down the society. And it's happened in the world before. It will happen again. We have situations where political violence is allowed. You're talking about the feral taking control of the society. And if you don't do something about it, it just gets worse and worse and worse. And I'm going to end this. I'm going to take this inside. I've got a bunch still down there that haven't been done, but because I've been leaving these green ones in here, they're not, there's not a lot of space in the basket. So I'll go in and finish that. But we need to take control of the feral, and whether that is lawbreakers inside our society, lawbreakers that come from outside our society, whatever the case may be, we have to take control of the feral, or we risk losing our culture. Talk to you later.